Raf and Mandy presented you, so the multi-channel strategy and how to manage a web store, I'm going to focus a little bit on the importance of the analytics in the e-commerce and on your online business. So indeed, with e-commerce, online you will have access to so much data, much more information that you have on offline. And it's actually up to you to leverage these data to grow your sales and grow your business. And if you do that correctly, you'll have so much leverage to actually really clear actions and to take the right decisions. How does it work? All right. So to answer that question, like why companies should care about analytics, I'm going to zoom in on three sub-questions. So the first one is analytics will help you to grow your business, so increase your sales. Then I'm going to zoom in on how to manage a successful promotion strategy. And it's especially important for online because online and e-commerce is very much driven by promotion and campaign. And analytics will not only help you to actually increase your sales, but it's also going to give you insights on how to properly operate your business. So more on the fulfillment and the inventory management. And then I'm going to give you a very brief introduction of all the business intelligence tools that you can use to achieve that. So before I go in the detail of my presentation, maybe it could be good to recap the key performance metrics that we follow in the e-commerce. So the most important one is the GMV. So the GMV is the gross merchandise value. So what it is, basically it's your sales. So it's the sum of the selling price of all the products that you sold during X period. Then you also have the net merchandise value. The difference between the net and the gross is basically you would deduct any voucher or any other charges that you might have, such as shipping charges, payment charges. So the NMV is the final paid price by the consumer, okay? Of course, we monitor the number of orders, and we monitor the AOV and the AIPO. So those are the basket size in terms of value and in terms of item. As Raf presented, those are very important metrics in the e-commerce because you have cost per order in terms of logistic, fulfillment, and delivery. So if your AOV is too low, your variable costs are going to be too high. And we monitor all the information such as traffic and conversion rate. Traffic and conversion rate are very key and very specific to online, and so you might have some information here. So to start, I kind of want to show you 3 examples of very actionable metrics that you can follow. So the first one is, so what are your best sellers and what are your top converting SKUs? SKUs being items. So what are your best sellers? Of course, it's obvious, but usually, and actually it's very interesting, and you need to analyze your sales assortment. And very often the 80-20 rule applies. So very often 80% of your sales will come from roughly 20% of your items, your 20% best sellers. And so on this, you need to focus mainly your attention. You need to make sure you're not running out of stock, and you need to make sure they are visible on all your channels. You need to make sure you have a good content on those SKUs. And so you need to give a proper level of attention to those SKUs which are driving most of your sales. And also, what are your top converting SKUs? So your top converting SKUs are basically your items who convert the most. Basically, people came, saw the product page, and most of the people who came converted into buyers. So the question is, do you drive sufficient traffic into those SKUs? How can you even push the visibility further to increase the sales? Because the impact will be much bigger on those SKUs than any other item. Another key information might be, so where are your most performing channels? Meaning like what device are your customer coming from? So is it a laptop? Is it a mobile? Is it a tablet? And then you need to make sure that your content is optimized on each of those devices. Another point is, are you competitive on the market? And it's especially true for the marketplace strategies, so the multi-channel. Here is this information of price competitiveness is going to be much more accessible than offline. Even the marketplace like Lazada, they share this information with you and they will actually push you to be the most competitive. So the question is, it doesn't mean that you have to be, but the question is it in line with your strategy? And you have a direct access easily to this information. So now if I zoom on what other insights you will get from the data, you will have so much information from your customer, much more than offline. You will get to really know your customer in detail. So who are your customers? So you will have you have the possibility to have a lot of information on them, and especially on the Webstore, as Mandy presented, you're going to have even much more information than what I'm showing here. What I'm showing here is, for example, a customer profile that a marketplace would be sharing with you. So you already have some information, but on a Webstore, you would even be able to deep dive even further. So now, what do you do with this this information? So you know the gender mix, the age mix, you know where they're coming from geographically, and you know where they're buying from, what device. So what do you do with that? For instance, if I look at the gender and the age mix, so it's going to help you, of course, to optimize your targeting, your marketing targeting. And that's something you can analyze by brand, you can analyze by category, by product. And it's something that, in the end, with this information, you're going to optimize your content online as well. If we take the example of product pages, this is product content pages from Tmall in China, which is the most advanced in terms of content, in terms of rich content. You can see how much detail, how much rich it is in terms of content. And here, the look and feel of those 3 different products are all from L'Oréal Paris, but very different. So obviously, a man cream, a man deo would be different than a young woman item, and also very different from an older woman item, which would be more around pharmaceuticals and effectiveness of the product. So this also is going to give you insight on that. Now, your geographical reach can be very interesting to kind of cross-check with your offline business. So you can have some like heat map and where are your customers coming from, and this can provide you some insight on your offline business gaps, like why 40% of your customers are coming from Pattaya. Do you have a huge offline breach over there or anything? It can give you some information, some key information on your offline reach. And as well, so coming back on the device and where your customer, on what device the customer are buying, it's an analysis that you must and should do by analyzing the difference in terms of AOV, in terms of basket size. So you wouldn't buy, like it would be harder for a customer to buy a laptop, actually, like a very expensive item on a mobile. You tend to go on your laptop because you feel more confident to buy on this laptop. However, maybe you would be more inclined to buy a smaller price on a mobile, on a mobile, such as lipstick or anything like that. It also depends on the convenience of your application. If we look at, for instance, online tickets or flights, airlines tend to have a policy of pushing very much their applications on mobile, and they give you discount and all of that. And all those applications are actually very convenient. Like in a few clicks, you buy your tickets. And those can actually be expensive tickets, but it's also because of the convenience of the application that they push customers to buy on their mobile. So now that you know a little bit more who are your customers and how they shop, the question is, like, how do they shop? Like, when do they shop, actually? And what are their shopping habits? And then this will give you so much information to actually optimize your marketing plan. So The first question can be, when in the week do they buy the most? And so basically, when it's the most profitable for you to push your marketing, which day of the week. Those are, this is something that you should analyze as well by category. It's interesting to see if you look at, for instance, if you look at usually the home appliance category, tends to be much more stronger during the weekend. Why is that? It's because as a customer, when you buy a microwave or when you buy something for your home, you want to be at home and take the measurement and make sure that it's going to fit. So they are like very, very practical explanation to that, but this is, you're going to gain that knowledge by looking at your data in the detail. And also what time of the day would be the best to push your advertising. And that's also interesting to kind of differentiate the peak of traffic and visibility and the peak of conversion rate. Those might not be the same. If I take the example of the transportation, you do a lot of scrolling and you have very high visibility during the transportation. It doesn't mean this is the time that you actually buy. So this is going to give you information. And now, now that you know when they buy, the question is, what do they buy and what do they buy together? And this is very much tied to Raphael's presentation and the bundling strategy. And so I remember Raphael said bundling is very effective to increase the AOV, but it's also very tricky because you don't want to bundle items that customers don't want to buy together. So in order to do smart bundles, you need to analyze what they buy together. And it's actually the same strategy as offline, meaning you analyze what customers buy together. And what would you do in a retail shop? You would put your milk next to maybe the egg, and then that would incentivize the customer to buy them together. It's exactly the same strategy. By analyzing what they buy together, then you might come up with strategic bundle and very complementary items. You might also want to bulk your items, sell them in a large volume. And so this way you're going to increase your AOV. You're going to have a faster and a more efficient fulfillment process. And in the end, you're going to reach a higher GMV. The next question around your customer is, how loyal are they? So what I'm showing is it's called the Cohort Analysis. So it's about analyzing the repeat rate of your customer. This is a case study of a baby category, a baby milk brand. So what's very interesting in here is, for instance, that over time, months after months, the rate of repeat customer increased. So basically, you really have an increasing rate of repeat customers. So when they come, they tend to come back and buy again. So what does it mean in terms of marketing? It means that it's worth investing a lot in customer acquisition, because once you gain them, they come back. They tend to come back. We also have another information from this table, is that here is the repurchase rate per month out of your new customer. So even though the rate of your new customer every month is decreasing because you have much more repeat customer, out of those new customer, you can see that it's moving from the green a little bit more around the red. It means that out of the new customer, like converting the recent customer into loyal customer, is getting harder recently for some reason. So what can you do about that? It might be a good time to actually explore, and this is what they did actually, to explore like a good CRM program. And it's something especially interesting in the baby category. It's actually the same example as the dog example of Mendy, meaning with baby categories, very interesting because you can follow the age of the baby, and so you can push notification so in terms of when they get 6 months, you can push the right baby milk and notification to your customer, as well with same with the diapers. So if you sell them bulk diapers, like 20, 30, 50 diapers together, you kind of can estimate when they're going to run out of diapers, and so you can also push some email and some advertising at this point. I think that's it around getting to know your customer. So you can see that all of that gave you a lot of information on who are your customers, what are the habits, what can you do to actually increase your sales. Now, zooming into the promotion strategy. So online business is very much driven by campaign and by promotion because it's very competitive, especially in terms of price, much more than offline. So it's very important, and I want to introduce kind of a methodology to monitor your promotion is by, of course, testing, measuring, and adjusting. It's always like a virtuous loop it's a continuous adjustment. So the first thing is you need to test different mechanisms, different promotion mechanisms, because you don't know what's going to work the best, especially if your brand is new online. So you can test the difference between discounts, so discounting one item, and voucher, so basically having a voucher code applying to many items. What's interesting with the vouchers is that you can actually apply some specificities like a minimum basket size, a category, some brands, a period of time. So you have more flexibility with the voucher. So you need also to test the different discount size. So what's going to be the uplift if you do 5, 10, 15, 20, 50%. So you need to learn what's going to be the threshold that's really going to make a difference for your customer. You should also test the duration of the campaign. You test your bundling strategy, so different bundles, which one works the best. And you can also test your public target, meaning you can test public sale versus private sale. So what is a private sale? It is like, especially it's very popular for like luxury brands or any brand who doesn't want to discount their products. But for some reason, at a certain point, you might want to clear your stock, you might want to get rid of some of your inventory, and this is where you can use private sales, and so your customer base, to do some advertising without jeopardizing your brand image. And as well, item selection strategies. So basically, when you do a promotion, when you do a campaign, is it going to be only on 5 items? Is it going to be only on the best sellers? Is it going to be store-wide? Look at the effectiveness of those different mechanisms as well. So now, measuring. So when you try to measure and when you try to learn if a promotion was successful, you need to look at all the KPIs that I introduced in the first part of this presentation, and you need to look at them as a whole, and you cannot isolate them. So you need to look at, of course, your GMV, so your sales against targets. So it's very important that to know if it's successful, you need to have targets. Look at the impact of your promotion on the AOV of your basket size. Did it increase or did it actually decrease because you discounted it so much that your basket size decreased? And of course, look at your conversion rate and your traffic. What was the impact of your promotion on the traffic uplift? The traffic is very important online, and you always need to take that information in the equation when you analyze your sales. Because it doesn't matter how good your item is, how good your content is, it doesn't matter. If nobody sees it, you're not going to sell it. And now, so basically, how do you analyze really the effectiveness of your campaign is by measuring the return on investment. So how do you calculate it? Basically, you take your sales uplift compared to a normal business day, minus your marketing cost that you might have invested to drive traffic to your promotion, minus the cost of all your discounts and all your vouchers. And so once that you tested different mechanisms and that you measured it, you need to keep track of all of those and compare the performance of each of those campaigns. So key advice is, of course, compare what is comparable. So compare the promotion on the same channels, compare it during the same campaign size. So approximately, like for instance, if I take the example of Lazada, they have major campaigns such as 11/11 and 12/12. Those cannot be compared to a small campaign of one day of only one brand. the traffic will be tremendously different, so you cannot really compare. And of course, with comparable marketing investment. And so all those insights, you need to keep track of those, and then every time you're going to have a new promotion strategy, you need to look back at your different tests and what was effective and what wasn't. If I take a case study of a health and beauty luxury brand, so this is, let's say, a table that would summarize different tests that they did and the importance of the test for this brand especially. So this brand was generally reluctant to do big discounts. So they really don't want to discount their item. But sometimes it's necessary, especially on the online, because of the campaign season and all of that. So they did different tests, and so they tested on different different assortments. So store-wide discount, meaning you discount all your items, like only on different discount on your long-tail products versus your bestsellers, or discount only on your bestsellers. They tested different discount size, and they looked at the uplift and the conversion rates. So what's interesting is it's important to always test different discount size. And what the key learning from that was that from 10% to 12%, which is a small 2% for the discount, the uplift was huge, and the conversion rate really changed. Also, from 12 to 15, it wasn't really, the gap wasn't that big actually, and since the brand is really reluctant to do big discounts, they kind of found the right threshold that they didn't want to go above. Also, it's interesting to see the impact of the duration on the uplift and the conversion rate. So of course, the shorter the campaign is, the most impactful it is. So you leave less possibility to the customer to actually go away, compare with another website, and come back. If it's a one-day campaign, they're like, okay, I have to seize this opportunity. I'm going to buy now. Also, it might be stupid and it's not very logical, but the most simple the promotion mechanism is, the better it tends to work. Even though you do a big discount on your bestseller, your bestseller is basically where you're going to get most of your money. But even though you're not going to get the same uplift than if it's actually a store-wide, even with a smaller discount. So you can see it's 12% store-wide versus 15% only on your bestseller. The uplift is actually smaller. And also private sales. So those promotions were actually on private public. So your current customer, that they send a voucher code, and the effectiveness of a private sale can be as much as a public sale. So another case study to kind of show the importance of the traffic. So this is an electronic brand who did a barter deal with a marketplace, with Lazada in that case. And the importance is, the case here is to show the importance of the traffic and of the visibility. And a barter deal, so what is it? It's something that you can do with the marketplace. So basically it's an exchange. So the marketplace will agree to give you a high visibility on the website, a lot of traffic, a lot of push, like they would boost your SKUs. And on the other side, the brand would agree to bring traffic to the website and also to give big discounts. So these type of barter deals are very effective to test some different promotion mechanism, to test how good some items are working, because you assure your brand to have a good visibility. And this really is where you can test and you can really see the effectiveness of your products. And so the uplift of sales for that brand during those mega sales was huge, and it was very, very successful. All right, so Now, zooming into how analytics, how data is going to help you to properly operate your business. If you look at, for instance, your inventory management and so your demand forecasting. So usually, so of course, the more data you're going to have, the more accurate your demand forecast is going to be, and the more sophisticated your model can be. But usually, what we do in terms of demand forecasting the e-commerce, because the e-commerce can be very unexpected in terms of peak of sales, a very common methodology is to actually target a certain number of weeks of supply. So you're trying to maintain 4, 6, or 8 weeks of supply of all of your items. By doing that, you ensure that even with a big promotion, even with a big uplift of sales, you will have sufficient stock to fulfill your demand. So you can start only so when you will launch your brand, you will start only by looking at the previous trend, and so you will apply this trend to the future weeks that you want to have of supply. And then the more data you're going to have and the more sophisticated you want your model to be, you can bring in some value-added information, such as your marketing. So you can bring some information around your marketing and your promotional activities. So of course, you need to take into account if last week you had a huge promotion, or if next week you're planning a big promotion. And you can also take into account the price elasticity. So with your data and with all your intelligence that you're actually building, you can actually measure how much, what's going to be the impact on the demand according to various different prices and discount. And also, you need to take into account the seasonality of e-commerce, which is very important, especially so now we're arriving to Q4 in Thailand. We have 11/11 and 12/12 driven by Lazada, which is very big. Today, at this point, all the brands are starting to plan this peak of sales. So now that on one side with your inventory, you're trying to plan the demand, and on the other side, you also need to monitor the risk of your inventory, because holding your inventory is a holding risk to it. So you really need to monitor that carefully, and so one way of doing that is you can assign a health kind of risk dimension to each of your items by measuring your week cover, so how much weeks do you have of stock, the age of your stock, and the stock value and the value of your stock. And so once that you actually reach some critical level, and once you actually have a lot of risky inventory, which is like non-moving items, they're not selling anymore, you need to start to kind of implement a clearance strategy. So you need to discuss with both the marketplace or your own Webstore to organize a clearance sales, and how this is going to work. Basically, those are items that are not moving, so you need to discount them a lot for them to actually go away. So, and this is something that you can implement once you have a lot of risky stock. And this is where we come back to your promotion strategy, and this is where you leverage all the knowledge that you got from those promotion analytics. Before I move on to the next session, do you have any question on the first part of this presentation?
Do you recommend any companies to go through all this? Or is there any shortcut where I'm sure you know a lot of clients already? So do you have any inputs on, in order to, for example, if you want to do discounts, you should have this kind of discount to start it off? And then see.
To be honest, I think especially when you launch your business online, I think you need to go through those analytics, because your online business is going to be, and this we see a lot with all the brands that we launch, your online business and success is going to be very different from offline. So you need to gain knowledge of what is working, what is not working, what are your bestseller online, which can be very different from your bestseller offlines. And so you need to build this intelligence. So you can do it step by step, of course, And it doesn't have, so this is what I'm also trying to show in the next session, it doesn't have to be that sophisticated, especially during the first period when you actually launched your business, but you need to monitor your sales and what is working and all of that. I think it's actually mandatory, and this is the key lever that you're going to have to grow your sales.
For online campaign, what is considered like a good conversion rate? Because the one you were showing, there was something from like 0 point something.
Very low.
2.5. Is 2.5 like a really good one already?
It really depends on your product, but what I can say is that, for instance, what's very interesting is to compare the conversion rate, for instance, from the US or Europe to conversion rate in Southeast Asia. In here, it tends to be very low, and you're very happy if you kind of reach like 4%, 5%. You're like, woo, big campaign. But that's also tied to the habits of Asian customer being pretty much online all the time and scrolling and shopping online a lot. It doesn't mean like at least shopping online, yes, but at least scrolling a lot. So it's different habits. In the US, this would be much, much smaller, meaning like people would go online for a reason that they want to buy, and they know what they want to buy, and the conversion rate would be much, much higher. So here it tends to be smaller. I cannot give you an exact number because it really depends on the brand. But you will, that's also something that you will learn when you start. So you monitor your conversion rate, you will kind of start to build like this baseline, and you will see the peak of conversion rate on key SKUs, key promotion, and this is where it's very important for you to analyze what action you can get, how much traffic further you can push, anything like that.
Sorry, just again, follow on to that question. Is this a market development issue for Southeast Asia, that you're seeing the conversion rate being lower, and are we projecting that it will be higher as the kind of a market
as the market grow? Yeah, probably, definitely. And we are also very, very small in terms of e-commerce maturity in Southeast Asia. So probably this trend will change, but also I think it's always going to be very different than the US or Europe, because here consumers are very much on their phone, they're really much online, much more than in the US and in Europe.
What's the number like for US and Europe? Like 2 digits?
Yeah, more.
10, 20?
No, I wouldn't say 20, but around 10 is more normal. Any other question?
Just want to ask whether there's a way to track, let's say if a visitor come to our website and the person basically left without buying anything, and we want to understand more why the person did not make the purchase. Mm-hmm. What kind of trackings and analysis would you recommend to help us discover those reasons?
So those are detailed analysis that you'll be able to do on your own web store. It's going to be much harder on a marketplace. You wouldn't know. I mean, that's information that the marketplace has, but wouldn't necessarily share with you. But on your web store, so Google Analytics is going to be your best friend. It's a free tool. Google Academy, if you want to have a look, is very, very detailed, very broad, a lot of content, and it's going to give you many, many information. So with Google Analytics, you'll be able to design and to follow all this information, especially, okay, let me jump to the final slide, especially, so this is what you can get with Google Analytics, which is like your funnel, your conversion rate funnel, and you will know at which point of once the customer came on your page and put item in a basket, you will know when they left, at which point of time. And this is why, for instance, in the US, the checkout tend to be very long, like many, many different pages. Why is that? Because they want to know exactly what is the information that is actually making the customer leave. So this you can track at every stage of the checkout when your customer is leaving or staying.
But those tracking, you need to put in a tag, right? or is it automatically done?
No, you need to design. You need to design it yourself. You need to put some cookies. But this is something that you can do with Google Analytics. Any other question?
Do you have any data on which one has a higher conversion rate between, for example, Lazada, who sells everything, compared to Orami, who is like a specialized store? Which one would have more?
It depends on the category, but for mom and baby, the conversion rate on Orami would be much higher, definitely.
So if I have a specialty thing that I'm selling, for example, I'm selling like auto parts, for example, I wouldn't want to go to Lazada, right? Where there's like, okay, you've got like 66 million what we call visitors.
But it also depends because, so yes, your conversion rate, I believe, would be high on Orami if you have a mom and baby product. However, on Lazada, you probably have much more visibility because much more traffic. So your conversion rate might be lower, but your visibility would be much bigger.
Yeah, but so what? If I got so much visibility, but they don't convert anyway, so I don't really care, right? I'm more concerned about conversion rate. So if I have something to sell for moms, babies, and pets, I should steer away from Lazada and then just go to Orami?
That can be. I mean, definitely. I mean, it also depends on so what's your strategy and how much. If you want to only focus on one channel, then yes, focus on where you're going to have the higher conversion. But I mean, in the end, okay, the conversion is something, but in the end, is the sales that is important. So even though your conversion rate is lower on Lazada, but the visibility is so big, in the end you sell more on Lazada. That's also a question that you want to ask yourself.
But because the sales, right? Conversion rate is the sales.
Conversion rate is the sales, but conversion rate is is a rate by definition. So it depends. It depends on the baseline of visibility that you had. All right, so moving on, I think I'm right on time. Moving on, so to the different BI tools that you can use to track all those KPIs. What I am trying to show you here is that it doesn't have to be very sophisticated, especially at first. So the first step, of course, will always be Excel. Excel is a very, very, very powerful tool. Really, you can do so many things. You can do a lot of automation on Excel already. And it doesn't really have to be always very manual. And then once you kind of reach a certain limit of Excel, you can kind of integrate different plugins such as Power Pivot. Power Pivot is a database plugin that you can put on Excel, which is going to help you to manage your data. And SyncCell is a very convenient tool that's going to help you to move from Excel to PowerPoint and kind of create effective graph. So that's examples. So those are very, very easy to have, and it doesn't require a lot of investment in terms of BI. Now, once you reach a certain level and a certain number, so the e-commerce is very data extensive in terms because you're monitoring all your items, your customer, your sales, all of that. At a certain point, you might need to invest into building a data warehouse, and then you will move towards SQL queries and building some data visualization software such as Tableau and ClickSense. So at aCommerce, we use ClickSense, for instance. But so those will be much more advanced. But what I'm saying is that before you reach that level, you already have a lot of things to explore, and that can give you as much information as with big tools. And to kind of conclude and wrap up with this presentation, I want to show you typical templates that we share with the biggest brands that we work with, which kind of wrap up all the KPIs that I've been talking about. So we give them visibility, of course, on the main 4 KPIs. So your GMV, your number of orders, so the AOV and the number of items per order. We give that visibility by brand, by channel, by category, of course. And then we also give them visibility on the bestseller and the best converting SKUs. We give them visibility on the geographical reach of the items. So of course, promotion analysis. So what's your contribution of your promotion out of your total sales, and that's interesting to see. So like, what's going to be the proportion of sales that you did with absolutely no discount, and it can be very low in the e-commerce. And that's also something you need to make sure, is it in line with your brand strategy? So analyzing the peak of sales every day, and analyzing the uplift of any campaign. So your promotion performance, of course, again, the promotion performance, and so what I was showing in terms of checkout funnel. So that would be it for me. So that's an example of like simple, quite simple KPIs you can monitor on your online business. Do you have any question?
Just trying to follow your KPI. What is AOV and AIP?
AOV is the basket size, it's the average order value. And AIPO is the average item per order. So it's the how many items you put in one basket.
And how different with the GMV? Gross merchandising value.
So the GMV is your sales, is the total sales. So,
Includes those marketing costs.
no, it's only the sales of your item. Is the sum of, if you take the GMV of the month, it would be the sum of the selling price of your item. Okay, so if you sell one mouse, and let's say the price of this mouse is 100 baht, and you discount it, you give 20% discount, so your selling price is going to be 80 baht. So the GMV of the month is the sum of those 80 baht. Yes, but it's the sum. Usually we look at it when we look at the month's sales, total sales. You look at the GMV.
What's that about the
OV,
purchase, the total?
an average. So basically you take your total sales and you take your total order, and if you divide those,
The transaction?
exactly.
Okay.
So how in average, what's the price of your basket? And this is very important to kind of estimate whether or not you are profitable, considering only the variable cost. And this is, of course, the first thing that you need to reach, because if you're not even profitable with your variable cost, it's going to be hard for your business to scale.
Talking about profit, when we do the e-commerce, what the profit margin we should be expecting?
I think it's something very specific by brands and by business.
Yeah, because from a newcomer for e-commerce, I believe that e-commerce will yield a higher benefit margin for the business comparing to the offline. So,
But it also depends. You also, compared to offline, you also have a lot of logistic and delivery costs.
so in reality, it's not. It's the same.
It depends. It really depends on the maturity of your business. It depends on the type of business. Is it big? Is it HP and L'Oreal will never be the same. It cannot be compared. We don't have the same price per item at all. It's completely different. So
it's just changing of the way you do marketing. That's all.
thank you very much.